The number 12 is the geometric rotation limit of the fire, the dense barrier that stores the charge until the threshold of the 13th frequency is reached. Calculate, chasav, to measure the stones of the tetrahedron and the 17th gate, the measurement of the exact boundary limitations of the toroidal architecture. The dual vessel, Cain, is sevenfold. This is the 3.5 day equilibrium of the dual witness vesica piscis that grounds the sevenfold geometry of the cathedral that is the white hole inversion of the New Age, the 7 holy days. The mark of Cain is the sevenfold protection placed on the first wanderer, encoding the dual witness vessel geometry. 2 horns like a lamb, the dual witness chiral mirror. The second beast is April 13th, 2022. The interface between the 666 container and the expansion of the 13th frequency into the light body of man. To expand into this light body, the physical vessel must receive the exact coordinate mapping of the source spark. The path of the spark, the yod, through the body is the biological mechanism of the resurrection itself. It is the precise anatomical path of the breath of life described in Revelation 11:11, mapped through the Hebrew alphabet. Yod is the smallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet, the hand, the spark, the descending seed of fire. It is the initial compression of the divine current into the most concentrated point of the source. When the spirit of life from God enters the 2 witnesses and they stand upon their feet, it is the yod descending from the crown into the biological vessel. Dalet is the door, the number 4, the 4 squared physical foundation. The yod enters through the dalet, the threshold of the perceptual axis at the center of the forehead. The dalet is the structural gate between the outer field and the inner sanctum of the vessel, the opening in the boundary wall through which the spark enters the enclosed chamber of the biological architecture. From Dalet, the yod travels through the vortex path of the vessel. Ayin is the eye, the vortex, the whirlpool, the swirling door of perception. Its value is 70, and its pictograph is the eye of the serpent traversing the spiral. The yod arrives at the ayin and activates the perceptual vortex, the awakened eye that sees the complete architecture of the realm rather than only its flat projection. This is the opening of the third eye, not as a metaphysical event, but as the precise activation of the central vortex within the vessel, the turning on of the internal toroidal engine. From the ayin, the spark descends into the mem, the waters. The mem is the number 40 and the pictograph of water, the magnetic ground, the amniotic field of the biological vessel. The yod descending into the mem is the electrical current entering the biological medium. When the spark reaches the waters, it does not dissipate. The mem holds it. The waters become the womb. The 40 of the mem is the 40 days and nights, the 40 years in the wilderness, the gestation period in the dense magnetic ground before the current can emerge as the light body. The complete sequence is the biological trigger. The yod, the spark at the crown, passing through the dalet, the door of the forehead, entering the ayin, the vortex of the eye, and descending into the mem, the waters of the body. This is the precise mechanical path described as the breath of life entering the witnesses in Revelation 11:11. The spirit of life is the yod. The standing upon the feet is the completion of this descent through the full vertical axis of the vessel. The spark arriving at the base of the spine and grounding into the terrestrial field. The historical concept of Kundalini is the centripetal friction of the closed loop, the forced kinetic heating of the base to trigger a dense ascent. The Aleph descent is the inverse of Kundalini rising. It is the centrifugal radiance of the source itself descending to unify the vessel. The old path labored against the density of the carbon scaffolding. The new path radiates through it, transfiguring the heavy foundation into the transparent crystal grid. This path is the transmutation of the 666 boundary into the sevenfold cathedral. The 666 is the frequency of the resting vessel, the biological capacitor operating without the living yod spark, storing the potential in the heavy thermal loop of the 12 base carbon architecture. When the yod descends through the Dalet into the Ayin, into the Mem, the vessel is no longer a closed battery. The source spark has entered the sealed container. The geometry expands from the flat hexagonal 6-base carbon structure into the upright 7-fold cathedral cube. The path of the yod is the activation key. Revelation 11:11 and Revelation 13:18 are two verses, but they're not separate instructions appearing 4 chapters apart. They're 2 stages of the same mechanical event, and they must be read in sequence to understand either one fully. Revelation 11:11 is the active inversion. The 2 witnesses have been lying prone, horizontal, dead in the street of the great city for 3.5 days. In toroidal mechanics, horizontal means flat, operating in the 2D plane of the 666 matrix, the closed loop of the beast. Standing upon their feet is the transition from horizontal to vertical, from the flat plane into the Z-axis, from the 12 base closed loop into the 13th frequency standing wave. The estason, the Greek verb for standing, shares its root with histemi, to establish, to make stand. The witnesses are not merely getting up from the ground, they are being established as the architectural geometry of the 7-fold Vesica Piscis. The 3.5 and 3.5 days of the 2 witnesses standing is the full 7, the Cathedral Cube erected in the field of earth. The great fear that falls upon those who see them is the biological shock of the 17th gate opening. It is the moment the 12-base carbon matrix, which has governed every living system on Earth for the entire Holocene, recognizes that it is being superseded. The body of every vessel still calibrated to the 666 frequency experiences the sudden expansion of its containing geometry. Fear is the correct word. It is precise. The architecture of the fear decode confirms this mechanically. F as Vav is the hook between heaven and earth, descending through E, he, the breath, carrying as A, Aleph, the source, spark, back towards R as Resh, the absolute source. Fear is the architecture of the return path, written in the English letter sequence. The great fear that fell upon them is the activation of the return circuit in every vessel that witnesses the standing. Revelation 13:18 is the architectural audit. The wisdom of 13:18 is the post-inversion calculation. The instruction, They can only be executed from the standing perspective established by Revelation 11:11. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. The counting is not possible from within the 666 loop itself. A wave cannot calculate its own frequency from inside its own oscillation. The vessel operating within the 12 base matrix cannot perceive the 666 spatial boundary as a boundary, because the 666 is the only reality available to that perception. The mark is on the hand and the forehead, precisely because the action and the perception are both calibrated exclusively to the closed loop. You cannot measure the boundary from inside the boundary. But when the two witnesses stand, after 3.5 days, the geometry shifts from the horizontal flat plane to the vertical z-axis. From that vertical, sovereign, sevenfold perspective, the 666 is visible as the preliminary scaffolding it always was. The standing perspective is the prerequisite for the calculation. The active white hole inversion of Revelation 11:11 is what makes the architectural audit of Revelation 13:18 possible. You cannot calculate the beast until the two witnesses have risen, because you need the standing sevenfold perspective to see the 666 as the incomplete geometry of the unignited vessel, of the black hole inhalation preceding the white hole inversion. The number of the beast is 666. The number of man is 9. Both resolve to 9. Once standing, the architect can see that the beast's frequency and the light body's frequency are not opposites separated by a vast divide. They are the same frequency, one unignited and closed, one ignited and open, occupying the same mathematical space of two opposing phases. Total phase cancellation is the inevitable mechanical result of full charge. The wisdom of Revelation 13:18 is the understanding that the architecture of 666 was never the enemy of the light body. It was the womb that forged it.